Let me ask you something real. When was the last time you showed up for yourself? Not to impress anyone, not to fit in, not to gain validation, just for you. Most people wake up each day trying to meet expectations that were never theirs to begin with. Performing for a world that claps for surface-level success while ignoring the cost it takes to achieve real growth. But what if the most powerful thing you could ever do was simply turn inward? Not from pride, not from selfishness, but from pure, grounded self-respect. And they might not understand your silence. They might question your distance. Let them. While they talk, you build. While they laugh, you evolve. And eventually, they'll look up in disbelief at the version of you they never saw coming. Because you were never trying to impress them. You were busy becoming who you were meant to be. You owe it to yourself to stop performing for people who wouldn't notice your worth until it's undeniable. You owe it to yourself to become the kind of person your past self could barely imagine. So decide, really decide, that from this moment forward, your focus is sacred. No more half-hearted promises. No more waiting for the right time. You don't need to announce your goals to the world. You don't need to justify your journey or explain your silence. True transformation doesn't need a spotlight, because the minute you choose growth, the noise around you starts to fade, and in that quiet, your soul finally gets a chance to speak. You begin to hear what actually matters. You realize that every time you stop explaining yourself to those who were never listening, you regain the energy to create something that truly matters, yourself. It's rarely the loudest person in the room who makes the biggest impact. It's the one no one saw coming. The one who worked in silence, healed without attention, sharpened their discipline in the dark. That's the person who rises. That's the one who changes the game. So stop craving approval. Approval is a cage dressed up as support. Once you start chasing it, you trade your purpose for applause. You start sharing your progress for attention instead of doing the work for yourself. And that's when people begin to lose their way. You don't need an audience. You need focus. You don't need to be seen. You need to be consistent. And when your focus becomes non-negotiable, your actions get sharper, your energy gets stronger, and your progress becomes undeniable. Let others perform for attention. Let them chase likes, validation, praise. You're building something bigger. And one day, when the results speak for themselves, the same people who overlooked you will wonder where you came from, but you'll know it didn't happen overnight. It came from the quiet nights, the lonely hours, the invisible effort, and the uncelebrated wins. People stop checking in when you go quiet because they assume you've disappeared. But silence isn't the end. It's where the real work begins. It's where the roots grow deep, where no storm can shake what you've built. So let them doubt you. Let them talk. Let them scroll past while you sharpen yourself into something unshakable. You're not here to prove anything anymore. The ego is gone. The need to be understood is gone. All that's left is the work. And the work doesn't lie. The results don't lie. That strength, that discipline, that transformation, they weren't built for attention. They were born in silence, out of respect for your future. And that's where your power lives now. Not in being seen, in becoming undeniable. Every time you felt like giving up but kept going, you were adding another page to your comeback story. And when the moment finally arrives for the world to witness who you've become, you won't have to say a single word. Your presence will speak volumes, your results will shout, and your silence will carry more weight than any speech ever could. People will always have something to say. They'll question you, ignore you, even try to tear you down. But silence strips them of their power. The moment you stop reacting to every insult, rumor, and dig thrown your way, you begin to take control. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every comment needs an answer. Not every person is worthy of your energy. Some people speak just to fill the void, terrified of what they might hear if they ever sat quietly with themselves. But you've learned to lean into the quiet. You don't run from it, you sharpen in it. You're not wasting time on drama or proving your worth. While they scramble to be seen, you're becoming unforgettable. And the day will come when even those who dismissed you will have no choice but to recognize what you've built. Not because you convinced them, not because you demanded recognition, but because your life will speak for itself. You'll be undeniable, not through noise, but through the undeniable truth of your progress. Ever notice how the most powerful people in the room are often the quietest? That's not by accident. It's because they don't need to prove anything. They move with certainty. They walk with presence. And that's where real strength is born, not from volume, but from confidence. You don't have to warn anyone about what's coming. You don't owe explanations to those who've already made their judgments. Let them misread you. Let them count you out. Every time they do, they give you more fuel. This world is addicted to noise but doesn't respect it. What it respects is transformation, discipline, quiet, steady evolution. The kind that doesn't beg for applause, the kind that doesn't need attention, just vision, just hunger, just you, locked in, focused on the climb. And the day you stop talking and start executing with everything you've got, everything begins to shift. You stop caring what they think because your life becomes the response. Every win tells part of the story. Every breakthrough writes a new paragraph. And when it's all said and done, your journey becomes a book that leaves everyone silent. They'll never fully understand the depth of what you've endured. The nights you sat in the dark, questioning everything. The mornings you dragged yourself up when everything inside screamed for rest. The moments you kept going with nothing but faith to hold on to. That's what makes your silence powerful. It carries the truth of your struggle. It carries your pain, your resilience, your fire. You didn't land here by luck. You were forged in difficulty, shaped by the storms. And everything you built in those quiet, invisible battles gave you a strength they'll never be able to measure. So when the time comes and they finally see what you've created, it might shock them. But it won't shock you. You'll know exactly how many times you were tempted to quit but didn't. You'll remember being overlooked, counted out, talked about, and yet you kept moving. You kept building. And in that silence, you created something no one could ignore, a legacy. So stay quiet, stay sharp. The noise will never stop. But you've evolved beyond the need to respond. Your only answer now is action. Your only reply is transformation. You're not here to argue or explain. You're here to evolve. Every day you choose silence and consistency, you're laying another brick. You're building something unshakable. And eventually, those who doubted you will be forced to face the truth of what you've become. They'll ask how you did it, where it came from, and you won't have to say a thing. Your life will be the proof. Your results will be the answer. And your silence will echo as the loudest sound in the room. Because in a world built to hijack your attention with pings, alerts, endless distractions, your greatest power is the ability to focus, to return to yourself, to protect your energy like it's gold, because it is. And the most unstoppable version of you, that version is born in the quiet. Distraction is the quiet thief that wears the mask of comfort and entertainment. It lures you in with promises of escape, while slowly stealing your potential. You can't rise to your greatest self if you're always chasing the next shiny thing, the next dopamine hit, the next excuse to avoid your purpose. Discipline is your shield. It's the fortress that keeps you steady while the world spins in chaos around you. To quiet the noise, you don't need to be harsh with others. You need to be uncompromising with yourself. You have to draw the line and declare that your time, your energy, your purpose matter too much to be wasted. Because every time you let distraction take control, you're giving your power away to a world that has no stake in your success. It's time to lock in, time to say no to what doesn't align. Discipline isn't about punishment, it's a statement. A bold declaration that you are done settling for less than your potential. People misunderstand it. They think discipline means saying goodbye to joy, but that's the lie. Real discipline is freedom. Freedom from chaos. Freedom from regret. It's the kind of freedom that allows you to choose your actions instead of being ruled by impulses. When you live with discipline, You decide what fills your day. You choose the content you consume, the voices you listen to, the people you allow near your dreams. Every choice is either building the foundation of your future or slowly cracking it apart. Distraction is the crack. Discipline is the cornerstone. You have to take an honest look at your day and ask the hard questions. How much time did I waste scrolling? How many hours did I spend watching others instead of building something for myself? These moments seem small, but they multiply. And if you don't take charge of them, they'll quietly take charge of you. The way to silence the noise is to know what you're building, then protect it like your life depends on it. Because in a way, it does. Focus is your weapon. It's the ability to cut through the clutter and fix your vision on what really matters. You don't scatter your attention like buckshot. You aim like a sniper. You breathe, you steady yourself, and you lock in on the target that moves you forward. That kind of precision requires boundaries. With your time, with your habits, with your mind. It means putting the phone down, closing the extra tabs, walking away from distractions, even when they feel comfortable, especially when they feel comfortable, because comfort rarely produces growth. Growth comes when you choose to stay locked in, when you do the work even when no one is watching, when you say no even when it's tempting to say yes. Distraction leaves you busy but empty. Discipline leaves you purposeful and full. The louder the world becomes, the more essential it is to quiet your own mind, to turn inward, to listen to that still voice inside that always knows your next right move. There will always be people pulling at your attention, inviting you into gossip, into arguments, into chaos. If you don't stand firm, you'll get swept into storms that were never yours to begin with. Discipline is peace. It's saying no to conflict that doesn't serve you. It's showing up for your mission day after day, unaffected by what's swirling around you. It's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent, about building something so solid that when the storm comes, you're not shaken. You keep walking, you keep working, and eventually you learn how to move through the storm without ever losing sight of your light. The distractions won't disappear, but they'll lose their grip. You'll create your own rhythm. You'll stay in your lane. And when those old temptations come knocking, you simply won't answer because you'll be too busy building something real. Your success won't be a fluke. It will be the result of focused choices, daily decisions, a mind trained to stay the course, and a heart that refuses to settle. Discipline isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you forge, day by day, moment by moment. It's the alarm you get up for when you want to sleep, the reps you push through when you'd rather quit, the work you do now that creates the freedom you'll feel later. And the best part? Every small act of discipline compounds, quietly, powerfully, until one day the world looks up and realizes you didn't just change, you transformed. Not by chance, but by choice. Every single day, every time you turn down a distraction, you're saying yes to your future. Every time you push through the urge to stop, you're building strength. Discipline becomes a muscle, and with every choice, it grows more powerful, more reliable. That strength will take you further than talent ever could, further than luck, further than waiting on the perfect opportunity. Because while others are drifting, chasing comfort or quick fixes, you're gaining ground, quietly, relentlessly. Discipline isn't just about blocking out the noise. It's about becoming the force that rises above it. The world may be loud, but you're louder in your focus. Doubt fades in the face of consistent action. Fear weakens when met with daily effort. Distraction loses its grip when you choose to stay locked in. The truth is, the world doesn't reward the easily distracted. It doesn't hand success to the inconsistent. It responds to those who show up again and again, regardless of mood or motivation. If you want to surprise the world, stop chasing its distractions. Start chasing your vision with tunnel vision. Cut out the static. Not just the notifications and the endless scrolling, but the deeper noise, the mental clutter, the emotional weight, the voices of comparison and self-doubt. Silence the inner critic that keeps replaying old fears. Step away from the relationships that leave you drained. Let go of habits that waste your time and numb your progress. Your purpose is too important to be drowned out by nonsense. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often one simple choice: discipline over distraction. It's the decision to protect your time, your energy, your peace, like they're sacred, because they are. Start small. Say no when it's easier to say yes. Turn off your phone and tune into your priorities. Walk away from the arguments that offer no value. Focus on the few things that move the needle, that only you can do. Every moment you reclaim from distraction is a brick laid in the foundation of a life you can be proud of. Keep doing this, day after day, week after week. Let the compound effect work its magic. You don't need to announce your progress. You don't need permission. Let your results speak. They always do. Discipline will carry you through storms, through doubt, through long seasons when nothing feels like it's working, until it does. You'll look back and realize that the world didn't change. You did, quietly, powerfully. And then there's healing. Not the kind made for posts and applause, the real kind. The kind that happens in silence, away from the performance. Healing is not a show. It's a sacred process that takes place in the hidden corners of your heart, far from the noise of judgment and expectation. When you allow yourself to heal in private, you create space to truly feel, to release, to grow without pressure. You stop rushing your recovery for anyone else's comfort. You let the pain move through you, breathe, and finally settle. That's self-respect. In a world where everyone is sharing everything, keeping your healing to yourself is a radical act of strength. It says, I'm not here to impress you, I'm here to rebuild me. When you protect that space, you shield your transformation from the opinions that could derail it. You build a quiet sanctuary where resilience is formed and strength begins to take shape. You don't need to make noise to prove your healing. When it's real, it shows. Growth is the same. It's not loud, it's not flashy. It's the slow, patient climb that no one sees but you. It happens in the background, in the discipline, in the days when no one is watching. And that's what makes it real. When you grow in silence, you avoid the trap of proving yourself too soon. You stay committed to the process. You don't rush to declare change. You let change speak for itself. True growth is humble. It's patient. It's rooted in deep work that doesn't need applause. You learn to trust what's invisible. You don't need validation because you know the truth of your effort. And when the moment comes when your results begin to unfold, you won't need to explain anything. You'll move like a quiet storm, steady, certain, and undeniable. Healing and growing in silence doesn't mean you're isolated. It means you're intentional. You choose your space. You protect your peace. You allow only those near you who honor your journey, even if they don't fully understand it. You step away from chaos and surround yourself with calm. You don't chase approval. You chase peace. You chase purpose. And when the time is right, the world will see what you've become, not because you told them to look, but because your life will make it impossible not to. Healing in private is an act of deep self-love. It requires boundaries. It means protecting your peace by turning down conversations that reopen wounds and choosing instead to engage in moments that nourish your soul. It's about taking space to reflect, to journal, to sit in stillness, to simply be, without noise, without judgment. When you allow yourself to grow quietly, you begin building something unshakable. You lay the groundwork for strength rooted in self-awareness, and that foundation becomes your anchor in the storms of life. You may appear silent on the surface, but within, you're constructing a fortress. And that silence, that's where your power is born. Because when you keep the details of your journey close, you protect the sacredness of your transformation. You don't need to explain your wounds. You don't need to narrate your progress. The world might ask for a story, a status, a performance, but you stay grounded. Healing is not a show, it is your private triumph. The mystery around your growth commands a quiet kind of respect. It causes others to notice the shift in your presence without needing an explanation. The more you protect your progress, the less access people have to misinterpret it. You stay in control, not by defending your path, but by letting your transformation speak on its own. That's what makes your silence powerful. You don't need permission. You don't need applause. You just keep rising. Private growth isn't always easy. There are moments when the silence feels heavy, when the solitude stings, when you wish someone could truly understand. But those moments forge resilience. They teach you to comfort yourself, to cheer yourself on, to hold your own hand through the hard days. That's real strength. Not escaping the pain, but sitting with it. Not rushing to be seen, but choosing to understand yourself first. Over time, that silence becomes something sacred. It stops being a space of isolation and becomes a source of clarity and calm. You start to see your scars differently, not as signs of damage, but as proof that you've endured, that you've learned, that you've grown. And because your healing wasn't for show, your comeback becomes unstoppable. You don't just return, you rise with grace, with strength, with quiet authority. Healing in silence also teaches patience. The world around you craves instant results, but you learn to value the slow, intentional process. You begin to trust the pace of your own journey. You stop comparing. You stop performing. You understand that growth isn't about speed. It's about depth. And with every quiet step, every private breakthrough, you build something lasting. You learn to celebrate the wins no one sees. The moments when you choose forgiveness over anger, peace over chaos, hope over bitterness. These small, invisible victories begin to stack. And eventually, they form a transformation so powerful that even those who only saw the surface are left speechless. Healing in private is a gift you give yourself. It frees you from the pressure to explain. It gives you the room to become who you were always meant to be, on your terms. You take back the pen. You write your story one quiet page at a time. No noise, no distractions, just you, becoming. That's the power of growing in silence. You don't need to convince anyone of your progress. They feel it when you walk into the room. They see it in your energy. They hear it in the calm confidence of your presence. You become a living reminder that real strength doesn't shout, it radiates. The world is loud, restless, and full of opinions. But your soul moves differently. It's focused, centered, relentless in its pursuit of peace and purpose. Healing quietly is not just a phase, it's a lifestyle. It's how you rise above the noise. It's how you step into the highest version of yourself without ever having to ask for permission. Because in the end, the fiercest competition was never out there. It was always within. The real battle is between who you've been and who you're becoming. And when you choose silence, when you choose discipline, when you choose self-respect over validation, you win that battle, one quiet, powerful moment at a time. Too many people waste their energy looking sideways, measuring their worth against someone else's progress, comparing their path to someone else's destination. They get caught up in the highlight reels, the filtered snapshots, the illusion of perfection, but none of that matters. Because the only competition that truly exists is the version of you from yesterday. The version that hesitated, that chose comfort over challenge, that let fear win when strength was needed most. Every morning you wake up, you're handed a choice. Will you show up and push beyond who you were yesterday? Or will you let your old habits run the same tired script? The moment you decide to outwork your past self, everything changes. You stop playing a game with fixed rules and false standards. You enter an arena where you set the pace, where the only measure of success is your own improvement. This is where progress is made, not by chasing others, but by chasing better. Outworking your old self means waking before the world stirs, staying up long after the noise quiets down, doing the work while everyone else is resting or watching. It means ignoring the voice that says quit and listening to the one that says keep going, not for perfection, but for progress. Every time you push a little further, stay a little longer, or resist the urge to back down, You win a battle against complacency. You become unstoppable because your motivation no longer depends on applause or attention. You don't need likes, followers, or recognition. Your fire is internal. It's fueled by a hunger to grow, a drive to become the person your old self only dreamed of. That's where the foundation of real success begins, with discipline, with grit, with the quiet promise you make to yourself and keep day after day. Competing with others is a trap. It distracts, it distorts, it pulls you away from your own growth. Their timeline is not your timeline. Their journey is not your path. And their victories have nothing to do with your purpose. When you stay focused on your own lane, your only goal becomes improvement. And that goal keeps you grounded. It keeps you hungry. It forces you to stop looking for validation and start searching for growth. Real transformation doesn't happen in public. It happens in the quiet moments when you choose better, even when no one is watching. It happens when you trade comfort for challenge. When you show up, not because it's easy, but because you said you would. Every step forward is progress, no matter how small. Every setback is a lesson, not a sentence. And every time you refuse to let your old self win, you take back your power. Outworking your past means embracing discomfort. Growth never comes from staying safe. It's built in the grind, in the late nights, the early mornings, the extra reps, the difficult conversations, the days when you want to stop but don't. That's where strength is born. Not just in your body, but in your mind. You become the kind of person who no longer fears the hard days. You welcome them, because you know they're shaping someone stronger. The old version of you might have quit, but you're different now. You recognize pain as progress. You see obstacles as opportunities. And you understand that each moment of struggle is shaping a future self that no setback can hold back. This isn't about being perfect every day. It's about choosing to be consistent. It's about waking up with purpose, showing up with discipline, and staying committed even when your feelings try to pull you off course. Discipline keeps you grounded. It shows up when motivation fades. It reminds you who you said you'd become and holds you accountable to that vision. Outworking your old self is a daily decision. Some days the steps are small, other days they're monumental, but all of it adds up. What matters is that you keep moving, you keep rising, you keep choosing progress over perfection, discipline over distraction, resilience over resignation. You forgive your failures, but you never stop growing. That's how greatness is built, quietly, relentlessly, one day at a time. Because greatness doesn't belong to the lucky, it belongs to the ones who are willing to outlast doubt, outgrow excuses, and outwork who they were yesterday, again and again, until the person they become is unstoppable. Your old self is not your enemy. It's the starting point, the foundation that got you here. It's the version of you that survived, endured, and laid the groundwork for who you're becoming. But if you're serious about rising, you can't stay attached to who you were. You honor your past by outgrowing it. You prove to yourself that change isn't just possible. It's inevitable when you're willing to work for it. The distance between who you were and who you're meant to be is shaped by effort, mindset, and relentless commitment. When you focus on outworking your past self, you unlock a source of motivation deeper than praise, deeper than recognition. You stop chasing external wins and start chasing something more powerful, personal evolution. You don't just improve your circumstances, you shift your identity. You start rewriting your story from the inside out. And that story becomes one of grit, faith, perseverance, and the refusal to settle. This is the most meaningful competition you'll ever face, and no one can fight it for you. No one can show up on your behalf. It's you versus the habits, doubts, and limits you've outgrown. When you commit to this battle daily, the results begin to speak. They become louder than any excuse, any distraction, any old belief that told you you weren't enough. You start to raise the bar, not to impress anyone, but because your standards have changed. You've changed. You shock people, not by winning against them, but by surpassing the version of yourself they thought they knew. The transformation becomes visible. Not because you asked for attention, but because it's undeniable. So stop looking outside for confirmation. Stop chasing approval from people who don't walk your path. The person in the mirror holds the real potential, the real power, the real reason to keep going. Outwork that person every single day. Because every time you do, you win. Every time you rise above who you were, you take back your power. And then there's pain, not as something to avoid or ignore, but as a signal. A message calling you to grow, to pay attention, to change. Pain, when faced honestly, becomes one of your greatest teachers. The moment you decide to invest in your mind, you're declaring that pain won't define you. You're choosing to turn it into purpose. You stop seeing wounds as weaknesses and start recognizing them as the birthplace of strength. Scars become symbols of survival and wisdom. Your mind is your greatest asset, and like anything of value, it demands care. When life breaks your rhythm through loss, failure, or heartbreak, your response becomes everything. You can either let the pain consume you, or you can use it to fuel a deeper mission. Investing in your mental strength means choosing growth, not just when it's easy, but when it's absolutely necessary. It's the line between staying broken and building something powerful from the pieces. The real battles happen in your mind. This is the space where your future is decided. Every thought, every belief, every perspective. And if you don't take ownership of it, the world will fill it for you. Negativity, doubt, and fear are loud, but they only have power if you give them a seat. When you make the conscious choice to grow mentally, you regain control. You begin filling your mind with tools, truths, and practices that elevate rather than drain you. This investment doesn't happen in a day. It happens in the choices you make daily. Reading books that challenge your thinking. Surrounding yourself with people who inspire growth. Taking time for reflection, meditation, solitude. Even silence becomes powerful when it gives space to your own voice. The pain you once ran from becomes fuel for resilience, creativity, and deeper self-awareness. Turning pain into purpose isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about facing the hard things head-on and asking better questions. What can I learn? How can this refine me? What strength can I gain? Once you shift your perspective, your entire story changes. Pain is no longer the end. It becomes the beginning of something meaningful. The people who've left the greatest impact on this world didn't just survive pain. They turned it into fire. They invested in their mindset until pain became a compass, guiding them toward purpose, mission, calling. And when the world went quiet, they kept going, because their strength didn't rely on applause. That's the power of mental investment. It's not just about what you think, but what you allow around you. The environment you create shapes the thoughts you carry. Toxic influences, endless distractions, and negative patterns will anchor you to the past if you let them. But when you choose to protect your mind, you start curating a space for transformation. You find better influences. You build healthier routines. You seek knowledge that expands rather than confines you. You become the gatekeeper of your own mental garden. You learn to pull the weeds, fear, self-doubt, bitterness, and plant seeds instead. Hope, faith, vision, discipline. And with time, that garden grows. Quietly, steadily, powerfully. That's how lasting change happens, from the inside out, with discipline, clarity, and purpose. Every time you outwork your old self, every time you choose to grow in the face of pain, you rise. And when you rise from a place of quiet strength, the world doesn't just notice, it respects it. Because your growth wasn't handed to you, you built it. When you choose to consciously nurture your mind, you unlock the ability to turn pain into purpose. Your mind becomes your fortress, resilient, clear, and grounded in what truly matters. The more you pour into this space, the less control pain has over your life. It doesn't disappear, but it loses its grip. The process of transformation isn't comfortable. It asks for honesty, vulnerability, and a willingness to confront the shadows you'd rather avoid. But in that discomfort lies the beginning of change. Every painful experience starts to look different, not as punishment, but as a teacher. Every setback becomes an opportunity to pause, reflect, and adjust. When you commit to mental growth, you build emotional intelligence, the ability to face your emotions, understand them, and use them as fuel for movement instead of letting them keep you stuck. You stop reacting from pain and start responding with purpose. You gain clarity, you gain control. Pain no longer tells your story, purpose does. This isn't just about being mentally tough, this is mastery. And mastery doesn't come from hoping things get easier. It comes from daily work, intentional, steady, courageous effort. When you find purpose in your pain, it becomes meaningful. Without that direction, pain can feel like a senseless burden. But with purpose, it sharpens you. It carves away the distractions, refines your values, and pulls your attention toward what really matters. The vision you build through this inner work becomes bigger than your pain. It gives you a reason to rise, even when everything feels heavy. It becomes your fuel when the path gets hard, your compass when life feels unclear. Your mind becomes the place where endurance is built and direction is found. And investing in that space, your thoughts, your mindset, your inner world, is the most powerful decision you can make. Because your mind shapes your entire reality. The very pain you once feared becomes the foundation for your greatest strength. It pushes you to grow, to evolve, to build something unshakable from within. Choosing to transform pain into purpose is ultimately a promise to yourself, a commitment to no longer live as a prisoner of past wounds. Instead, you build a future where your pain fuels impact, where your scars reflect resilience rather than defeat. This is the foundation of strength that no hardship can break. Because when you feed your mind with the right beliefs, the right focus, the right energy, nothing can take that away from you. Pain becomes your wisdom, purpose becomes your path, and every step forward becomes a reflection of the courage it took to keep going. You stop surviving and start rising, quietly, powerfully, fully. And alongside this inner work comes the awareness of how precious your energy truly is. Energy is one of the most limited resources you have, yet most people give it away without noticing. Staying unavailable isn't about shutting people out or becoming distant. It's about protecting your peace and choosing what deserves your attention. It's about creating space for growth by refusing to let outside forces dictate how you feel or how you move. People will always want your time, your emotions, your energy, but not everyone deserves it. Protecting your energy means saying no more often. No to distractions, no to people who only take, no to habits that drain you. It means valuing your well-being above temporary approval or keeping the peace. Staying unavailable is a quiet way of saying, I take my purpose seriously. When you protect your energy, you become more present in what matters. You stop leaking power into gossip, drama, or other people's problems that were never yours to solve. That constant drain disappears when you start guarding your mental space. Boundaries become your defense, not as walls to isolate you, but as filters to preserve your strength. Every time you say no to what doesn't serve you, you say yes to your purpose. This kind of clarity isn't about being selfish, it's about being deliberate. You're choosing who and what gets access to your world. Your energy is sacred, and how you manage it decides the quality of your days. Sometimes, protecting your energy even means stepping back from people you love. It's not easy, but it's necessary when your peace is on the line. You're not cutting them off. You're simply choosing not to bleed for people who won't even notice you're bleeding. The more intentional you are with your energy, the more you realize how powerful it is. When it's protected, you show up sharper. You work deeper. You grow faster. You begin creating a life designed by purpose, not distraction. And in doing so, you become someone unstoppable. Not because you push harder than everyone else, but because you've mastered the one thing most people ignore: protecting your inner world so you can lead your outer one. And not everyone has earned a front row seat in your life. Not everyone should have a voice in your decisions. Some relationships, no matter how long they've existed or how familiar they feel, are quietly toxic. They diminish your light, drain your energy, and leave you doubting your own strength. Creating distance from that energy isn't about resentment. It's not revenge. It's preservation. It's clarity. It's a deep understanding that your peace matters more than pleasing others. Choosing to stay unavailable to what harms you is an act of self-respect. When you guard your energy from people who bring chaos or take more than they give, you make space to breathe, to grow, to heal. You begin to rediscover the parts of yourself that got buried under the noise. The world doesn't benefit from your burnout. It doesn't need your exhaustion. It needs your clarity, your power, your presence. And that only shows up when you protect your energy like the sacred resource it is. In today's world, distraction is constant. Social media, endless notifications, noise on every level. Staying unavailable doesn't mean you disconnect forever. It means you pause long enough to remember who you are underneath the noise. You unplug even briefly to reconnect with what really matters. You create quiet, intentional space to reset, to reflect, to listen to your own thoughts without the echo of everything and everyone else. In that stillness, your vision becomes sharper. Your priorities realign. You begin to see what truly deserves your time and what was only ever stealing it. Choosing unavailability in the right moments is a form of discipline. It's strength. It's knowing that your energy is not an unlimited resource and that where you spend it will shape the direction of your life. It takes courage to say no to what pulls you away from your purpose and yes to what brings you back to center. And the reward for that choice is immeasurable. You develop a mind that can focus, a heart that remains calm, a spirit that refuses to be shaken. That's the power of protecting your energy. It also means being wise about where you invest your emotion. Not every battle needs to be fought. Not every insult needs a reaction. Not every situation deserves your time. Silence can be strength. Distance can be protection. Your peace is reason enough. As you protect your energy, you begin to attract better. You draw in clarity, alignment, and people who uplift instead of drain. Your presence starts to carry a different kind of weight, one rooted in quiet strength, not reaction. People respect it, they feel it, and that respect fuels your momentum in ways that noise never could. Staying unavailable is not about cutting the world off. It's about knowing when to close the door so you can recharge. It's the wisdom to realize that you can't pour into your purpose from an empty cup. When you hold your energy sacred, you stop running on fumes and start moving with intention. You show up stronger, clearer, and more grounded in every decision you make. The strength that comes from protecting your energy isn't loud, but it is lasting. It becomes a shield against unnecessary distraction. It becomes a compass that keeps you aligned. This isn't isolation, it's elevation. It's how you begin living deliberately instead of reactively. It's how you start choosing your future instead of being pulled by your past. The freedom you gain from this practice is life-changing. You take ownership of your time, your emotions, your focus. You stop compromising your peace just to keep people comfortable. You realize your energy is as valuable as your vision, and once you choose to protect both, your entire life begins to shift. This is where real power begins. When you make the decision to stay unavailable to anything that depletes you, you reclaim your strength. You stop explaining your boundaries and start living by them. You stop shrinking for others and start standing fully in who you are. This isn't arrogance, it's self-worth, and it's non-negotiable. When you protect your energy, you become unshakable. No longer drained by distractions, no longer pulled in every direction by things that don't serve your highest good, you start moving with intention. You become laser-focused on what matters, and your life begins to reflect that clarity. Your presence shifts. It's no longer something to be taken for granted. It becomes a statement, a reflection of worth, strength, and purpose. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. In that protection lives your peace, your power, and your potential. Stay unavailable when needed, not out of avoidance, but to ensure you can show up fully when it matters most. As this journey unfolds, one truth stands out above all: your energy is sacred. It's the foundation beneath every dream you chase, every relationship you build, and every piece of peace you protect. Choosing to stay unavailable at times isn't about building walls. It's about preserving the fuel that keeps you grounded. Your mental, emotional, and spiritual strength is not unlimited, and it was never meant to be spent on things that weaken you. When you guard your energy with intention, you create space for real growth. You begin to filter out the noise and focus on what nourishes you. The voices that once distracted or drained you lose their power. You reclaim your attention, your clarity, and your strength. You no longer react to everything. You choose what's worth your time and who's worth your energy. This is self-respect in action, not just talk. It's how you tell the world you value yourself. Your boundaries become a quiet declaration that your peace is not up for negotiation. You've seen how easy it is to pour your energy into conflict, into overextending, into trying to please everyone. You felt the exhaustion of giving too much to people who give too little in return. But the real shift begins when you learn to say no. No to what confuses you. No to what drains you. And yes to what lifts you higher. It takes strength to set boundaries, especially with those closest to us. But protecting your energy isn't about shutting people out. It's about honoring your well-being. It's about stepping back when necessary, not from anger, but from clarity. It's the recognition that your peace is priceless and your growth deserves protection. And when you choose that path, you build something unbreakable within yourself, a quiet strength that no chaos can shake. In a world that constantly demands more attention, more reaction, more emotion, your ability to stay unavailable becomes a quiet rebellion. It's in the moments of silence, solitude, and reflection that you hear your own voice again. That's where vision takes shape. That's where your focus sharpens and your next move becomes clear. This is discipline. This is presence. This is what it means to live with intention. You become the master of your own energy, conserving it for what matters most. You stop scattering your power and start directing it with precision. And with that shift, everything you touch begins to rise. Your work improves. Your decisions become sharper. Your relationships grow stronger. Protecting your energy is not withdrawal, it's wisdom. It's how you ensure you're not just surviving, but thriving. It's how you show up whole, not fragmented by burnout or guilt. When you honor your energy, you elevate your entire life. You start surrounding yourself with what fuels you. People notice, opportunities align. You begin to move with a presence that commands respect, not because you seek it, but because you carry it. This is the life you're meant for. A life marked by clarity, strength, and a focus that doesn't waver. Hold on to that. Keep practicing it. Stay unavailable when you need to. Say yes only when it feels right. Guard your peace like it's gold, and watch how your world begins to change. The strength you build by honoring your energy becomes your foundation. It helps you move through storms with grace. It guides you through decisions with certainty. It anchors you in every season of life. Your energy is your life force. Protect it. Respect it. Let it guide you toward everything you're capable of becoming. Thank you for choosing this path of self-worth, of growth, of intention. May you always guard your peace, protect your light, and walk forward with the quiet power of someone who knows exactly who they are. And may you be blessed every step of the way.